It takes titanium and aluminum and steel and glass and lasers to do one thing: impart feeling. That's all we do to strangers. And we want to impart that feeling to everyone in the audience at the exact same time. And that's the magic of cinema.
I believe you kind of immersed yourself in movies at quite an early age.
I was fairly convinced at the age of 8 that that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I kind of, when I got into high school, I worked after school directing plays and doing lighting for plays. That was from like 3 to 6, and then from 6 till midnight, 1 in the morning, I was a projectionist. I'd made Super 8 movies, and the dominoes were starting to kind of fall for me about how you knit, a scene together. I got a job working for a local filmmaker who was one of the original sort of triumvirate of omnizoetrope. So it was Francis Coppola, George Lucas, and John Cordy. And I started there as a PA. And when I left a year and a half later, I was the head of the visual effects department. I was one of those kids who was really committed to the idea of being on sets and watching how shit went down. I watched talented people that I liked and admired get kind of, spun. And I vowed never to let that happen. I was like, I want to know what every motherfucker in the room does. I never wanted to be the guy who was victimized by other people's laziness. I worked on the weekends with some friends of mine. We sold an idea to the American Cancer Society that had a fetus smoking a cigarette in utero. I got a job right after that directing a music video, and then I kind of lit out for LA. I signed with a commercial director on Melrose Place named Nesbitt Lee Lacey. We were there, we were ignored, humiliated, and 3 other directors and I decided to start our own company. And that was propaganda. And we went from billing together about $2.5 million a year. And 3 years later, we were billing $65 million a year. And we had the biggest music video commercial company in Hollywood.
And when it came to the first feature,
Yep.
Alien 3, did you think, right, this is the ideal project for me?
Yeah, I really did. I mean, I didn't like the script, but I love Alien. So yeah, I signed up naive and went off to Pinewood to be sodomized ritualistically for 2 years. I made a crucial error. I listened to the people who were paying for the movie, and they said not to work with your friends. The way to go about this is to work with people who've done this time and time and time again. And basically that translates into meet a lot of people who are going to resent you and your age and are not going to want to take instruction from you, and allow them to tell you what you can't do. So I kind of retreated back to doing television commercials and had no expectation that I would ever be employable again. And I got sent a script, and it was 7. And I got to John Doe walks into the police station and gives himself up. And I was holding the script, like I knew how many pages were left, and I was going, you can't do this. This is against the rules. So I read to the end and I thought, this is insane. So I called my agent and I said, this head in the box ending it's unbelievable. How do I? He said, oh my God, I sent you the wrong draft.
No.
That's the first draft. I said, what? He said, yeah, there's like 11 drafts. Do you want me to say it? And I said, no, this is the one. He goes, well. So I said, okay. And I went out and started meeting cast, and Spacey came in and read and killed it. And we were like, Spacey's the guy we should get. And New Line said, his quotes are too high. We were shooting, and Brad said, what's going on with Spacey? Are we going to get Spacey? And I said, they're running me around the block on his quote. And he said, fuck that. And he got on the phone and he was like, you got to get Kevin Spacey. And they all said, oh, of course, that's a great idea.
When you're doing a film like Fight Club, for example, one of the most subversive, in a way, kind of studio pictures, was that a film that you had to kind of fight to stick to the novel?
Look, I don't make movies in spite of the people who pay for them. You know, I don't fund my own films, and the people who do fund them, they're not tricked. I storyboarded the whole movie. I could take them through the entire thing and say, here's where we're gonna feel a little weird. And this is going to be a little sickening, and this is a tiny bit misogynist. And, you know, we'd walked them through it, and they were, okay, we're ready to take some risks. When we cut the movie together and we showed them the final thing is the first time I think that everybody realized that they were going to get fired.
The smaller roles, I mean, even Helena Bonham Carter.
I went to the Four Seasons when she was in town, and I met her, and she was foul-mouthed, nicotine stained, completely, you know, caffeinated. And she was like, why would you think of me for this? And I was like, I don't know.
I have to ask you about the takes issue. You famously have a lot of takes.
My philosophy is you spend $250,000 on a set. You're going to put it on a soundstage, it costs you $5,000 a day. You're going to put $8,000 worth of lights in the. You're going to bring a $150,000 crew in. You're going to bring actors in from all over the world. You're going to put them up in hotels. They're going to come there, and the idea is to get them out as soon as possible. If I fly you in from Iceland and you're supposed to do one day, I want to make sure that we get it. My process is about, I'm going to give you 17, 18, 25 bites at the apple. Because if you're smart and if you're conscientious, you've worked out in your head as an actor what it is you want to present me. And there's always this thing of like, yeah, I've gathered my senses and I'm ready to show you my wares. And I almost always feel like it's bullshit. I almost always feel like it's controlled. And so what I want to do is go, great, show me that. We shot 7 takes. Okay, now let's start. You know, I know you won the Oscar last night in the tub, and you figured out what this is going to be, but now I want to get beyond muscle memory. I want you to know exactly where to sit in that chair, because it's your home. And so you come in, you throw your coat on the couch. When you've done that 15 times, it starts to look like you live there.
Social Network. I remember getting incredibly excited at the idea of you directing a film from an Aaron Sorkin script about this subject matter.
When you read a script that good, you just say, where do I go to surrender? It was under very strange, kind of alien auspices in that they were like, we're making this movie. So you tell us how much it's going to cost, and you tell us who you want to put in it. And yeah, it's an incredibly exciting thing to be able to just cast people who are right for it. Andrew Garfield wanted to play Mark Zuckerberg. He gave a good reading. And then Jesse Eisenberg sent his audition tape in, and Aaron went, oh my God, he does me better than me. And I was like, it's got to be Jesse. I called Andrew over, and we sat in my office, and I said, I can't offer you Mark Zuckerberg, but I would love it if you would come to a read-through and read for Eduardo. You, as an actor, build an umbilicus to the audience. You create an emotional attachment. That's your gift. I don't need that for Mark Zuckerberg. I need that for Eduardo. And he came and he read, and we finished the read-through, and we walked out in the parking lot, and he goes, I get it. This guy's amazing. And I said, so do you want to play Eduardo? And he said, I would love to.
In Gone Girl, your new film, dealing with relationships between married people that are kind of not as they seem.
It has real insight, I think, into certain feminine perspectives that, you know, maybe we have ignored to our detriment. But the thing that was profound, we construct a facade of ourselves. You know, we learn from teachers, we learn from parents, we learn from siblings how to present the best version of ourselves, edit, and then we go out into the world as adults and we mate, and we couple, and we seduce people with this projection of ourselves, and often completely oblivious to the fact that the other person is doing that too. And there comes a point where one or more of the people who's entered into this contract says, I can't keep it up. I can't. I'm not interested in being the man of your dreams or the woman of your dreams anymore. I don't know what to tell you. And this movie was about the resentment that might engender.
Ben and Rosamund are perfect in that film.
They were both our first choice. Ben had a distinct relationship and understanding of what it is to be in the wood chipper of public opinion.
Yeah.
And when we started talking about Amy, one of the things that I realized about Rosamund was that I had no take on her. I pride myself on being able to see, an actor's utility belt. That's all I do all day. So I'm reasonably good at it. And I had no idea, and I needed that. Amy has to be unfathomable.
House of Cards, entering the world of kind of what I would call premium TV.
The rights for the show were being shopped in Hollywood, and my partners both started calling me saying, you gotta watch this DVD, you idiot. Like, just, the rights are gonna be gone to this thing, and and I watched it and I thought, this is insanely good. It's so simple and it's so dramatic and it's so rich. Television has become the place for characters to evolve. There's very little time in movies anymore for characterization. And I think television is a place where characters can be slowly peeled and revealed. I want everybody, I want the makeup artist, I want the boom operator, I want everybody to feel it's the best work that they've done. My father once said to me, I don't know who he was quoting, but learn your craft, it'll never stop you from being a genius. And that's the kind of thinking, that's what you want to surround yourself with.
I think that's such a great way to end. Thank you all for coming. And most of all, thanks to David Fincher.